And he knows that the lower courts cannot carte blanche stop him, which hugely increases the power of the executive.
Yeah, look, this is a great week for him, not just because of this ruling, but earlier in the week, the Supreme Court handed him the ruling on being able to deport illegal immigrants to third-party countries, essentially. So he's on a little bit of a winning streak in the courts right now. And you know what a lot of Republicans are saying is, nope, we're not tired of winning yet. This happened. The stock market's at a record high. He brokered the ceasefire in the 12-day war. Peace broke out between Rwanda and the Congo. I mean, gas prices are at a 4-year low for the summer. I mean, win after win after win. And this particular one is the most important because these individual judges had been, I think, unfairly stopping the president from governing. He won the election. They didn't. We don't have 600 presidents. We have one president. And now he's going to be able to actually govern. And so you could make an argument that this week or the last 2 weeks, the best week or 2 weeks of his entire presidency.
All right, guys. So we got to continue our coverage of what is arguably President Trump's best week ever of his presidency, whether that be the first term or now the second term, because he's stacked up win after win after win after win. And liberals just refuse to accept the reality that President Trump is executing on his campaign promises and he is delivering wins for the American people. Okay, they just don't want to accept it. They just don't.
Jobs not done. A foreign minister from Rwanda told CNN, he said he's committed to supporting this ongoing negotiation, but warned that ending the conflict will depend on political will and the good faith. And he doesn't know if that is true, referring to the DRC's government. It's not done. It's not done.
You didn't watch the news yesterday. They literally announced it in the Oval Office.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This is indeed a historical day because it's the signing of a peace agreement between Congo and Rwanda to end a conflict that has been going on for 30 years.
Let me ask you a question.
Literally in the Oval Office.
Can I say something?
Friday afternoon.
You said something earlier. You said, and you kind of agree with Pete, when he says there's something about the media where they feel like they want to disprove Donald Trump. Is that what you said? Something to that effect?
Yeah, it happens every day.
And you think that's what they want to do, right? You think the media is going in to say he's lying and he's not telling the truth. Do you believe that?
That is the standing disposition.
Do you believe that he tells the truth?
Yeah, I do.
Every time?
You think
all presidents?
You think the president tells the truth? This current president tells the truth often?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I also think that, to our point that we haven't established, he does announce things before it's too soon.
They literally had the countries in there.
The program isn't.
I feel like you should watch the news before you come out here.
I feel like you should stop trying to defend him just to defend him.
I feel like you should watch the news.
You guys stop.
Yeah, so I'm at the point where I really do believe that the mainstream liberal media, including CNN, MSNBC, liberals, the Democrat Party, progressives, the lunatics, the socialists, the communists, they hate Trump more than they love America, right? This is why they can't give the president credit where credit is due, okay? Even if you hate the president, if you don't like the president, you have to acknowledge that he has been picking up some W's over the past 2 weeks. He's probably going to pick up another W here soon, at least what he would consider to be a W, in regards to the one big, beautiful bill being passed in Congress, because it seems as if it is probably going to get through the Senate and is making its way through. And in the meantime, you do have one CNN host that I want to give a little bit of credit to, because I think that he did a pretty fair, objective analysis over the past 2 weeks for President Trump, and that is Michael Smerconish, who is going to piss off some of the viewership on CNN because he's basically going to give Trump credit where credit is due, okay, for what he's accomplished over the past few weeks. And, of course, again, CNN viewers don't like this. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
President Trump is having a moment. I'm Michael Smerconish in New York City. The first 5 months of Trump 2.0, they're in the books. I'm not shy about voicing my disagreement here with President Trump or doing so on radio. Often, whether it's trade, border control, Iran, I find myself agreeing with the goal, but not the approach. But viewed objectively, I have to say that Donald Trump has just had the best week or best 10 days of his second term. I'm still not sure bombing Iran was warranted. As I said last week, I'd have liked to have seen the evidence of Iran being on the nuclear doorstep rather than take Prime Minister Netanyahu's word for it, especially in the face of what DNI Tulsi Gabbard had testified in March and what Trump himself was saying right up until Israel launched its strike against Iran. But the mission was carried out with stealth and with precision. There were no American casualties. And while Congress is divided after receiving briefings on the extent of the damage, I'm sure that we've derailed Iran's nuclear program, at least temporarily. And there's some valuable deterrent effect for America's adversaries who witnessed last week's exercise. Then, last Tuesday, President Trump left the White House en route to Europe. At the time, there was a question as to whether Israel and Iran would honor a ceasefire. That caused the president to offer the most unfiltered, non-controversial, direct words that I can recall anybody ever saying about the Middle East.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Cut to The Hague, where he arrived for NATO meetings and was able to wrangle an agreement from our allies to more than double their defense spending target from 2% of gross domestic product to 5% by 2035. Also, while at NATO, in a press availability, he did something rare for Trump and I found rewarding. He showed empathy. It came in an exchange with a Ukrainian journalist who said that her husband was a soldier. She asked whether the U.S. would supply her country with Patriot missiles.
Are you living yourself now in Ukraine?
My husband is there.
Wow.
And
I can see you very, it's amazing.
And me with the kids, I'm in Warsaw actually, because he wanted me to be.
Is your husband a soldier? No?
He's
there now. They do want to have the missiles, okay, as they call them, the Patriots. And we're going to see if we can make some available. I wish you a lot of luck. I mean, I can see it's very upsetting to you. So say hello to your husband, okay?
Also in that presser, he was more reflective and respectful than usual of our allies.
They want to protect their country, and they need the United States. And without the United States, it's not going to be the same. And I left here differently. I left here saying that these people really love their countries. It's not a ripoff, and we're here to help them protect their country.
Back at home, Trump claimed that he's reached a trade deal with China and soon expects the same with India. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told Bloomberg that the deal was signed earlier this week. China's Commerce Ministry said Friday the two sides had further confirmed the details of the framework. Of course, Trump's initial imposition of tariffs wreaked havoc on American markets back in the spring. But now the markets have rebounded and grown. The S&P 500, NASDAQ hit record highs just yesterday. And it's not just the stock market. Inflation, the great economic fear of recent times, seems to be tamed. The rate is now reported at 2.4%, down from a high of 7% just 4 years ago. Meanwhile, blue-collar workers have seen real wage growth of 1.7% in Trump's first 5 months. This is the largest such increase in nearly 3 generations. Notwithstanding its impact on our national debt, there's also hope among some that Trump's big, beautiful bill will give further financial relief to blue-collar workers, as well as create incentives to build more factories in the U.S. Some already see this happening. For instance, General Electric has just announced that it'll invest almost $500 million in moving production of washing machines from China to Kentucky. And then there's the border. Crossings have slowed to a trickle. According to CBP's May update, Southwest border encounters have fallen to about 282 a day, a drop of 93% from last year and the lowest since the early 1960s. Perhaps the loudest cheering for those border numbers is coming from America's Latino community, which might initially sound counterintuitive. On Thursday, Pew Research released an enormous data analysis of the 2024 election, which contained several surprises. High on that list, President Trump won a bigger percentage of the Latino vote than previously believed. Hillary Clinton had a 38% lead over Trump among Hispanics in 2016. Joe Biden beat Trump in this demo by 25 percentage points. Kamala Harris's margin among these same voters over Trump, just 3 points. Even more surprising, perhaps, Pew Research concludes that if everyone had voted in 2024, contrary to the widely held belief that higher turnout helps Democrats, Trump would still have won. The data show 44% of non-voters said that they would have gone for Trump compared to 40% of non-voters who would have gone for Harris. So if more had voted, his margin would have grown. Yesterday came a huge decision from the Supreme Court. The High Court declared that federal district judges exceeded their authority when issuing nationwide injunctions against Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship. This will, of course, strengthen executive power both for Trump and for his successors. And finally, a Democratic socialist just won the nomination for mayor of New York City. And perhaps you're wondering, well, how does that affect Trump? It gives him the perfect foil, someone to play off in future political battles. This morning's New York Post references campaign literature for Zohran Mamdani, which advocates for increased taxation for, quote, richer and whiter neighborhoods. Just imagine what Trump will do with that. Winning became a punchline that Trump's opponents used to lampoon him in his first administration. He was a political novice then, surrounded by a team with which he was unfamiliar, and he was probably as surprised as the rest of us were that he won the election. This time is different. This time he came with a plan and a cabinet with senior advisors comprised of loyalists all well known to the president. And recently, he's exhibited a more layered approach to governing on both the domestic and international front, no longer solely guided by winning each day's news cycle. By any objective measure, President Trump has his opponents on the run.
Wow. Wow. That was an amazing job. That was an objective analysis. That was as objective as I ever seen on CNN. Okay, man. For this one segment alone, maybe CNN should get this guy I don't know, maybe a primetime spot or something. I think he should get Abby Phillips' job, right? Give this guy Abby Phillips' job if you're not going to give it to Scott Jennings, right? They should just give it to Scott Jennings, but if it's not Scott Jennings, give it to this guy. Because you have more of this, right, on CNN. Who knows? Maybe they have more viewership, right? This dude doesn't seem like the type of guy that's going to basically become a liberal debater in a show in which they're supposed to be the moderator, right? So, of course, you had liberals respond to this, and they were really upset. They're really upset with this guy telling the truth about how great of a week President Trump has had. Take a look.
What are your thoughts at social media? You can hit me up on all the usual platforms, and I'll read some throughout the course of the program. From the world of X, what in the hell are you talking about? Damn, you've set the bar so low for Trump that an ant can't crawl underneath. I don't understand the second part of it, but okay. What am I talking about? I'm talking about offering an objective analysis in view of what's transpired in the last 2 weeks that I've laid out substantively and with data. He's been on a roll. It might not be the role that you desire, but I like the word that David used and that Selena Zito used in her column this morning, consequential. Who among us could deny how consequential Trump 2.0 is turning out to be? But in order for you to recognize that, you need to have an open mind about what's transpiring.
Well, liberals don't have open minds, right? They don't have open minds at all, and they just can't admit when Trump is right? They just can't do it. Like, for example, Senator Chris Murphy. I saw this segment when he was being confronted by Kristen Welker on giving Trump credit for closing the border. And we all know that, like, border crosses are basically zero, right? We have net migration to the country. And this guy, Chris Murphy, he can't even just fix his lips to say, yeah, Trump has done a good job on closing the border. He can't do it. Take a look.
You know, border crossings are at a record low. Do you give the Trump administration some credit for that? And are you, when you look at those figures, do you think things are moving in the right direction, at least in that regard, Senator?
No, I don't give them credit for that because border crossings are low because they're violating the law every day. So we have a law in this country that says if you are fleeing terror or torture from another country, you can come here and apply for asylum. The Trump administration has suspended that law. They are not allowing anybody to come here to apply for asylum. We wrote that bipartisan bill last year to reform the asylum process, to make sure that only the right people are coming in and that we judge those cases expeditiously at the border. So it's true, there are very few people crossing on a daily basis, but that's because the Trump administration is violating the law. And it should matter to every American that on so many facets, the Trump administration doesn't care about the law. This is becoming a lawless administration. We are on a road to see our democracy atrophy to the point that it will be unrecognizable. And the border is just one example of many ways in which this administration doesn't care about the law anymore.
Yeah, so I want you guys to understand how silly this Democrat sounds on national television. He said, no, I'm not giving President Trump credit for securing the border because the border's too secure, right? It's too secure. He doesn't get credit for closing the border because the border is not open enough, is essentially what he's arguing on national television. again, at some point, Democrats just have to admit they hate Trump more than they love America, because Chris Murphy just sounds like a hater, right? At that point, like, you just sound like a hater. You sound like you just are going to hate Trump no matter what. You're going to poo-poo anything that Trump does, whether it's objectively good or bad, right? It doesn't matter to these people. The Democrats going to say it's terrible, and that's it. Because, again, they don't stand for anything except being against Trump. And this is why their party sucks, right? This is why they suck. This is why they're allowing a socialist to come in and take over their party, because these people are not smart enough. They're not savvy enough to actually give Trump credit where credit is due, and to actually seem like they are sane, right? Or to try to appeal to sane people, which means that you're going to have to side with Trump on something, right? You're going to have to agree that President Trump is doing good on something, right? On something, okay? Because he is doing good, okay? President Trump has more sane people on his side right now than the Democrats do. And the Democrats want to win back sane people. That means at some point they're going to have to take off their Trump hater glasses and actually see reality for what it is and say, you know what? President Trump is doing good on these things. Let's agree on these things. Let's work together on these things, because ultimately that's how we show the American people that we're a party of sane people, right? But they don't want to do that. They just don't want to. Okay, and segments like that are exactly what I'm talking about. It really is a damn shame what the Democrat Party has become. It really is. But hey, President Trump is going to keep winning, okay? And Democrats are going to keep hating and losing. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.